Hallie.
Yes, sir. I just have one question, but I need to clarify something that you said from the podium here on taxes. You said, I think to Matt on Tuesday, that as long as his taxes are under audit, he's not going to release them. His 2016 taxes, to our knowledge, are not under audit, unless they are. Can you explain?
My understanding, and I will double check, but the president's taxes, no matter who the president is, actually immediately go under audit after being filed. So that's actually inaccurate.
Back to us,
but I'll double check to be 100% sure.
So my question even more broadly is on this moment that we find ourselves in, frankly, of a national reckoning when it comes to sexual harassment. And so, again, a broad 30,000-foot way, does the president believe that he has a credible role in leading this conversation? And can you speak to the specific steps this White House has taken to make sure the women who work here feel like they are in a comfortable environment to talk about these things?
I mean, I think that the president treats, certainly as a woman myself, I've never felt anything but treated with the highest level of respect and been empowered to do my job. And I think that that's what I've seen the president do day in and day out since we've been here and during the campaign. And so I think that's a pretty good start and a pretty good example on that front.
Places are having sessions, they're having seminars. Are you guys doing that here? Are you talking about, in recent days, what people in this work environment can do? Are you taking?
There's certainly White House policies that we are reminded of, and I think all of us expect each person to live up and to meet those policies and to not cross a line that is not only not legal, but not appropriate or not ethical.
Yeah.
Kristen.
Just to follow up, we've seen Democrats forcefully call for John Conyers' resignation, Al Franken's resignation, which happened today. Do Republicans and does this president risk losing their moral authority on this issue, which is a huge issue right now, by endorsing a candidate like Roy Moore, which has now been backed by the RNC as well?
Look, I've addressed this in depth. We think that the allegations are troubling and that ultimately this is something that the people of Alabama should decide. Steve?
Why not call for him to drop out of the race or a write-in candidate?
Was the
Sarah, is the president failing to lead at this
Hey,
critical
Kristen,
moment?
I'm going to move around here.
Yeah.
But just a quick follow, is he failing to lead on this issue?
Was the president's proclamation on Jerusalem delayed because of concerns expressed by the Secretaries of Defense and State about security, that they wanted to get adequate security in place for U.S. embassies around the world?
We wanted to make sure that we had a thoughtful and responsible process, and that the decision and the components of that decision went through the full interagency process. And once that was completed, the president moved forward and took action.
Sarah, thank you. Given the recent revelations that at least one prosecutor on Robert Mueller's team was sending anti-Trump texts to another DOJ lawyer, and given the revelation that yet another one was congratulating Sally Yates for refusing to uphold and defend the president's travel ban, Chairman Goodlatte at the hearing this morning said that even the appearance of impropriety would devastate the FBI's reputation. So the question is, does the White House believe that the fix was in, that Robert Mueller's probe was biased from the beginning?
Look, we are fully cooperating through this process. We're going to continue to do so. As I said a few minutes ago, we certainly felt like some of the political leadership at the FBI was problematic. We're glad that Director Wray is there. We feel like he's going to clean up some of the messes left behind by his predecessor, and we look forward to this concluding soon and showing what we've been saying all along, that there was nothing to see here and certainly no collusion. Josh.
On the Hill today, Chris Wray praised the FBI and said it was, the finest law enforcement force in the world. The president said, it's in tatters and it's at its worst place in history. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Look, we don't think that there is a discrepancy. We agree with Chris Wray that FBI field agents are appreciated and respected. The president's issues are with the political leaders in the FBI under former Director Comey, particularly those that played politics with the Hillary Clinton email probe, and we don't see a discrepancy beyond that.
Would he undermine?
Sorry, I'm going to hop around
that's
because
one question. If he undermines the FBI and says it's in tatters, does the White House fear that that could create ramifications, that people won't trust law enforcement, that people will say,
no, and again,
why should we interact with the FBI when it's in tatters?
No, and again, the president's referring to the political leaders at the FBI, particularly those that were involved in the Hillary Clinton probe. Blake.
Sarah, thank you. Two quick ones about government shutdown. Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor said today of the president, his party controls the Senate, the House, and the presidency, speaking of Republicans rather, and he said a shutdown would fall on his shoulders. How is that not just a reflection, an accurate reflection of the political realities that Republicans control Washington at this point?
Look, they may control Washington, but this still takes some Democrats to be engaged in the process. And we hope, frankly, that Democrats will play by the Schumer rule and not hold this bill hostage by playing partisan politics, and that they'll come to the table, help fund our defense department, help fund our military, help fund Veterans Affairs. John?
You want a clean CR. At some point, though, DACA is going to have to be brought up, or potentially be brought up. Is the White House willing to mix at one point a DACA fix with government spending, and if so, when would that be the case?
The president said that with DACA, he wants to make sure that we have responsible immigration reform, including a border wall and other things that we've laid out in those priorities and those principles, and that's something that would have to be part of that discussion. Major.
On Monday, when the president became aware that Michael Flynn lied to the FBI, you referred her to John Dowd. Those of us who have tried, John Dowd is not engaging on that. That's a knowable fact in this building. It's not a legal matter, not for the attorney to say. Can you just tell us when the president became aware of that?
You know, the attorneys feel differently, and they feel this is a question that should be answered by them, and I'll encourage them again to respond to you, but I'm going to have to refer you back to John Dowd again.
Why is it a legal question for them, not about something the president knew and when he knew it?
As I said before, John Decker's the only attorney in here. I'm going to listen to the attorneys on this one, and John Dowd, hopefully, will follow up with you in short order. Mara, sorry, Major, I'm going to keep bouncing because
I think you want to take this one. It's real simple. It's very simple. Today, the UN ambassador said it's an open question whether the United States will participate in the Winter Olympics in South Korea. Is it an open question? Is that now in doubt?
Look, that wasn't exactly what the ambassador said. No official decision has been made on that, and we'll keep you guys posted as those decisions are made. Look, I know that the goal is to do so, but that'll be a decision made closer to time tomorrow. I think that's an interagency process, but I think ultimately the president would certainly weigh in. But again, that's something that he would take into account, probably a number of the stakeholders that would be involved. Absolutely, if we felt there was an issue, that would come up. Matthew?
Thanks, Sarah. Senator Rankin today, in announcing his resignation, said, quote, that he's aware that there is some irony in the fact that I'm leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party, end quote. What's the White House response to that?
Look, the president addressed the comments back during the campaign. We feel strongly that the people of this country also addressed that when they elected Donald Trump to be president, and I've addressed it several times from here and don't have anything new to add.
Can you say anything more broadly about the differences in the way the two parties are handling these accusations of sexual misconduct?
I think that some of that would be left to some of the party leadership. I'm not sure if there's a specific question in there on the differences, but John?
Sarah, Donald Trump Jr. refused to talk about his conversations with the president, citing attorney-client privilege. Would the president release him from any such privilege and allow him to speak to the committee?
That's a question you would have to ask his attorneys. We believe that his lawyers had a legitimate reason and basis for not answering those questions, but that's something I would direct you to his attorneys to address more fully. Matthew?
Can you explain to me how it could be attorney-client privilege when neither Donald Trump Jr. nor President Trump are attorneys?
Again, that's something that you would have to talk with Don Jr.'s attorneys about. That's not something I'm going to be able to comment from here. Jennifer?
Thanks, Sarah. What is the president's reaction to some U.S. allies, particularly in Europe, notably the United Kingdom, who have expressed opposition to his action recognizing Jerusalem? And also, does the fact that he kept his promise give him more credibility when negotiating in the Middle East?
Certainly, I think one of the abilities to follow through on something you've committed to, as the president has done. But also, let's not forget that this was something that Congress voted on starting back in 1995 and has reaffirmed 10 separate times over the last 20 years. This is something that the president took action on, a very courageous and bold action, and something that, frankly, the members of the United States Congress have voted on many times before. The president's got an event here in a couple minutes. Just a couple of last-minute notes. The president's got a event here with members of the Pearl Harbor survivors, and then we'll also have a pool spray at the top of the congressional meeting this afternoon at 3 o'clock. So we'll see you guys shortly.
Thanks. After he appeared yesterday and appeared
I'll follow up.
Can you
I will actually.
Just on his health.
I'll break the rules and I'll come back. I know that there were a lot of questions on that. Frankly, pretty ridiculous questions. The president's throat was dry, nothing more than that. He does have a physical scheduled for the first part of next year. The full physical that most presidents go through that'll take place at Walter Reed, and those records will be released by the doctor following that taking place. Thanks so much, guys.